Hello friends, and welcome back to another edition of Check It Out. Okay friends, it is day 7, officially 1 week from my hip labral surgery. If this is the first video you're seeing, this is a whole series, so hit subscribe to this channel and then you'll be able to see there's a playlist and you can watch from the day of surgery, 5 hours after, and I've made at least one video each day documenting, well, my experience. And keep in mind friends, this is just my experience. I'm in no way a medical professional. And this is not medical advice, just documenting my personal experience. And part of the reason I'm saying that is, as I say each time, my labral tear, a labral tear is not a labral tear. There's big ones, there's small ones, there's labrals that kind of get frayed. And for me personally, that was kind of the case. In fact, mine was bad enough that I even had arthritis that was starting there. I'm in my 40s. But it seems pretty young to be getting arthritis, and essentially it sounds like that is because I was procrastinating on getting something done. And that's what today's video is going to be focused on, is sort of how I knew it was time to take action and get something done here. And obviously when I say that, you know, your surgeon and your doctors are the ones who are going to decide with you on what you're going to do. But this is when I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go see a surgeon. I'm going to go investigate what it would be like to get the surgery and see what they have to say about it. So again, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm in my 40s. I have 3 little kids. I am in education. I'm a teacher, so I am in elementary school. So I'm out and about. I'm running around a lot, doing that kind of stuff. As a kid, I was a very active kid, even through my 20s and 30s. Extremely active in things from surfing, mountain biking, basketball, soccer. Anything outside, I wanted to do it. I wanted to experience it, and I pushed my body pretty hard. So over the last several years, I would have bouts of pain in that hip, and the pain would last for, usually would come on and last for a few weeks, and then it would kind of fade away. And a long time ago, I'm talking even like 10 years ago, I would have this happen, and then the pain would happen maybe once or twice a year, and it would last again for about 3 weeks, and then it would sort of go away. And when it went away, I basically was pain free. And then I would again sort of re-injure it and do this thing. In my mind, I was thinking I'm just kind of like pulling a muscle, or I don't know what's happening, but it seems to correct itself and heal itself. So, and again, I'm going to tell you my experience. This is not advice, because it sounds like I've made some mistakes on my trek. So hopefully you can kind of learn from me. As the years progressed, and I was still continuing to push my body pretty hard into my late 30s, I had some falls skateboarding, mountain biking, surfing. I had a fall that kind of tore my leg and pulled it pretty hard to the side. So I've had multiple injuries, and if you're athletic and you do alternative sports at all, you know you have one lead leg. In other words, from skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, which I got very into for a few years, you have one leg. So my left leg is my lead leg. And what that means for me is when I would fall and have an accident, almost for sure that front left hip was the one that would take the impact. And I think that may have had a big cause to the amount of damage that's in there too. So, as the years progressed, getting to today's date, I basically would have the pain would come on more times each year. So it seems like I would have these bouts of injuring that leg, or at least it would be in pain, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And again, it would last like 2 to 3 weeks, and then it would sort of fade away, and it kept kind of doing that same thing. And then finally, this last maybe year and a half, the pain stuck around a lot, and I would say I was in pain maybe 60% of the time, out of pain 40% of the time, and then the 60% of the time I was in pain. A lot of the time it was just a little bit of dull pain, and then when it would get bad, like if I went and played soccer with the kids a whole bunch, a couple days in a row, then the pain would come on bad, and then I'd get to the point where I'd be kind of limping around. So, and limping for maybe a week or two, and then it would kind of subside. And I was kind of telling myself, all right, this is certainly, the pattern is getting worse, it's not getting better, and it's definitely time to go get something done. So looking back just at my situation, if I could do this all over again, I would have started this journey probably 5 years ago, as far as going and seeing a doctor, a surgeon, and seeing what could be done. You know, there could be options like physical therapy and some stretches and all this kind of stuff you could do. I have done yoga for several years, about 4 days a week, 5 days a week. I do yoga. And I was thinking in my mind, you know, that's kind of helping me out. And I do believe it was helping me out quite a bit. But that was kind of my version of thinking about physical therapy. Is that smart? Is that the right thing to do? Again, boy, I'm not a medical professional, and I don't know. Probably not the best choice. But that's what I was doing for it anyway. And so when I did finally meet with the surgeon, and to kind of give you an idea of this process, so in education, I have summers off. My idea was if I have to have surgery, let's line it up for early summer. I can recover over summer. So when I did go to my surgeon, it was probably in, I think February or March was my first visit. My first, actually my first like contact, like calling up a surgeon, explaining my situation, trying to just come in for a consultation. So it's taken, basically it's been about, I'm going to say 6 months from the first day that I really took action until my actual surgery date. So 6 months. So kind of, you know, looking back, I would have started it earlier. My surgery date was July 17th. I would have loved to have my surgery date June 16th. So for me personally, I'm still going to be on crutches and the school year is going to be starting, and that is not what I was going for. So it was quite a process. Once I did start talking to the surgeon, and you know, they give you all these things to do, and I'll go over those in a second, I really tried to expedite it. So I was not procrastinating at all. I would get appointments as soon as I possibly could. So it's still 6 months, even though I was really pushing hard to get this kind of stuff done. So the actual process of doing it, met with the surgeon and kind of went over some things, and he kind of wiggled my leg around and was like, you know, let's take it to the next level here. And after explaining my history, he was like, you know, step one, let's get some x-rays. So we did that. X-rays, seems to me like they couldn't see a whole lot of specifics in there. So then they went to an MRI, and the MRI also had an injection where they could kind of see if this, I think it was like a dye injection, colored injection. So they could see if there was a labral tear. So it came back and he's like, yeah, you know, you definitely have a labral tear and some fraying going on. At that point, they thought the labral tear was smaller, on the small to medium side. So then they actually did a few more x-rays, a whole nother series of 6 actually. And basically he came back to me and said, you know, I think that you are a good candidate for the surgery. You are past the point of like physical therapy and that kind of stuff helping you out. You've got a lot of fraying going on, and some kind of a medium to small tear is what we think. And also you've got arthritis in there. That hip socket is supposed to have a certain amount of space between your socket and that ball of the femur. And that amount of space was getting smaller for me, which I guess is arthritis. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I didn't even know that's how arthritis worked. So basically, he was like, you know, his opinion was it's time to go under the knife. It's time to get this fixed up. So they explained to me, you know, orthoscopy, how it all works. He said that there's about a 5% chance that I'd need to do a microfracture, which watch my other videos and I kind of explained what that one is. The microfracture makes it a little bit more in depth. He was saying that typically you're on crutches for about 4 weeks with this surgery. If you do the microfracture, it's 6 weeks. And he also explained to me that there's a lot of variables here. Once they actually get into the leg and they basically put a camera in there, he's like, you know, that's when we really know what's happening. The MRIs give us a good indication, but we really don't know until we dive in there. So it's hard to say. I did not know I needed the microfracture prior to the surgery. And also, like how long the crutches are, he's letting me know that it's a variable. It's 6 weeks minimum, but he's like, you know, you might be 8 weeks. It just kind of depends on how things go for each individual person. So once they actually did the surgery, I've said this before, basically it ended up being a pretty large tear. In fact, he called it a very large tear. And on top of that, there was even more fraying than he thought there was going to be. And basically, he called my hip a mess. So while that seems kind of funny, it's frustrating for me because What that means is, you know, there was damage beyond what he could even fix, right? The arthritis end of things, it's what's done is done, and at this point hopefully this surgery is going to prevent the arthritis from getting any worse. And again, my arthritis is basically that space between those two bones in that joint getting closer and closer together. So there was torn cartilage in there as well, which is a little bit different than your labrum, my understanding is. So they stitched everything up, cleaned up the fraying, did the microfracture, which is kind of drilling holes into the bone to promote growth, and that is where we're at today. All right, friends. Hey, that was kind of a long video and a lot of talking by me. I know I tend to talk a lot. I get it. But if you do have any questions, you know, you can put them in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. Again, keep your questions non-medical as far as I can tell you about my story, but, you know, obviously I don't know exactly from a medical point of view exactly some of these details, and, you know, not medical advice, just kind of telling you about my journey. All right, friends, we will see you tomorrow for another update. Bye for now.